call this a pop, or maybe you call this a soda. If you're down south, you might call this a Coke. There's a reason for all these different names, and today we're going to talk about it because there is a historical, definitive answer to the debate of pop, soda, or Coke. So let's talk about it. I'm Darcy O'Neill. This is Art of Drink. I've been writing about drinks and cocktails since 2004. I also wrote a book on the history of the soda fountain in 2009 called Fix the Pumps. And while I was doing research on that book, I stumbled across all sorts of soda fountain information. And there is a definitive answer to whether it's called pop or soda or Coke. But first we have to do a quick history lesson so you understand where the terms come from. Now, back in the 1700s, Joseph Priestley and Johann Jacob Schweppes were the key inventors of artificial soda water, and they were just trying to mimic what the natural waters were produced in Europe. So those natural mineral waters had soda minerals and carbon dioxide. So they invented that, and then as you get into the United States, G.D. Howe and James Tuff were the creators of the artificial soda fountain. So where people could come in and get basically soda. But in the 1940s, these were plain soda water was being flavored. And once you get into the 1880s, you have a thriving business that was actually in every single pharmacy. That was a key element of their business, was the soda fountain. And you could get glasses of soda. Now, bottles of soda were not popular, though they were available, but there was three key issues with it. First was the sealing on these. They didn't have a mechanism to keep the carbon dioxide in them for very long. Though you could use cork, it was more expensive to import that from Europe. So they tried to use wood stoppers and a variety of other methods, but the carbon dioxide always escaped. And if it was left around for a couple days, it was flat. Also, most pop shops were fly-by-night operations. And they, unlike the pharmacists who cared about their customers because they were health professionals, these pop shops did not. So they did two things. First, they used any chemicals to flavor or color the soda. And then these chemicals were like aniline dyes, which are the dyes that caused cancer back in the 1800s and early 1900s, and they've been outlawed since the Pure Food and Drug Act. There's also the sanitation issues. They didn't clean their bottles, but they recycled them. If they did clean them, they may just rinse them with water. There was no hot water, no soap. It was just basically rinse them out or dump out the dead flies and rebottle. That made a lot of people sick. And if you go through the old newspaper articles, you'll read about people getting sick drinking bottled soda. And so that kind of kept bottles kind of on the back shelf while the soda fountain at the pharmacist thrived. Now, in 1892, William Painter invented the crown cap, and it's still the cap we use today on bottles, and he did two things. He standardized the neck size so every bottler could use the same bottle, and then he also made the cap basically airtight by putting a little piece of cork inside of the cap that made a perfect seal on the bottle top. And that allowed bottlers to keep the carbon dioxide in it and sell more soda. However, they didn't want to be called pop because it had that negative connotation to it. Now, the name pop actually does come from the sound you make when you pop the cork on the old soda bottles. That is not up for debate. But the reason why certain places call it pop and certain places call it soda is because of the American Bottlers Association. Now, this was an association that was created to improve the image of bottlers because it was so bad. And they didn't want to use the term pop because pop shop was derogatory, so they stuck with soda. And in 1915, the president of the American Bottlers Association, Charles Westerholm, was an avid no. They're calling it soda, no to pop. And that created a divide in the bottlers. By 1920, there was a group of bottlers that wanted to call it pop because some of these bottlers wanted to differentiate themselves from the soda fountain because they felt if they were advertising soda in a bottle, that it was advertising the soda fountains at the pharmacy. And they did not want that. F.O. Bailey wrote a very impassioned letter in 1920 to the American Bottlers Association saying why he wanted to call it pop. And that was because he didn't want to advertise soda, which was their competitor, the soda fountain. And in the same year, 1920, the Iowa State Bottlers Association voted to call it pop. And then a few others, you could probably go through the history books and see all the states that fall into line with that. But basically, it's down the middle. So you'll find the center of the United States calls it pop. Then on the West Coast and the East Coast, it's soda. And then you get the oddball, which is down in the South, where everything's called a Coke. Now, the reason they call it Coke was because of Coca-Cola. And it was so popular back in the 1890s that it outsold everything. And the key reason it was because it had cocaine in it. Now, the cocaine got removed by 1906 because of the Pure Food and Drug Act, but people had got a taste for it, and they still used caffeine in it, so people still found it to be a bit of a perk. But it does taste good. I mean, it's probably one of the best-selling sodas in the world. Now, when you come to canned soda, this falls under the Bottlers Association, so it would be called pop. However, it does make a cracking noise, so however that name's taken, but there are people who drink this like it's crack. Now, if you get into SodaStream, this is where time makes things obsolete. This is basically soda that comes out of a soda fountain or a carbonator, but it's put in a bottle. So that basically means all these terms are obsolete. And the reality is, call it what you will. If you grew up calling it pop, call it pop. If you grew up calling it soda, call it soda. The Coke one, if you're in the South, you understand it, so call it a Coke. So if you wanted to be technical about it, technically everything is a pop, unless it comes in a glass or a paper cup, then it's a soda. But that settles the debate why some people call it a pop, some people call it a soda, and other people call it a Coke. If you have any comments, put them in the comments section below. I'll get back to you. If you want to check out all the paperwork and the research on this, you'll have to go to artofdrink.com. I'll have all the articles that I pulled this information from on a post. And thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.